All right, what is up, YouTubes? We are here to do a quick review of all the top standard decks now that we've settled into Neon Dynasty and we know what the top decks are, and you're probably looking to climb to make sure you can at least hit, gold, so you can get the gold and the packs as your prizes for each season. Yeah, let's just jump into what the top decks are. We'll start with, I just like to go to MTG Goldfish. There's 100 sites out there you can use to see what the top meta decks are, whatever. I like MTG Goldfish. It's kind of my one-stop shop for stuff like this. But we click on Enchantments. This is the most popular deck. It is my least favorite to play against. It's such a solitaire type of deck. There's like literally no interaction on their side. It's either you mess with their combo or they get it off and they win. And the combo is Jakai Naturalist and Runeforged Champion. So Jakai Naturalist says enchantment spells cost 1 less. Runeforged Champion says you may pay 1 colorless instead of the cost for a rune spell that you cast, which essentially makes the rune spell free. So what happens is, like, maybe you have Generous Visitor is just a nice to have. You do not have to have this card, but basically you have Jakai Naturalist out, Runeforged Champion, and then you just keep playing the runes for free onto any of the other creatures you have. Kamigawa Transients, Generous Visitor, that just helps them build up, so maybe you can just have one good combat and win with a single attack. Because you're giving your stuff lifelink, so you're not going to lose to the aggro game plan. You're giving your stuff trample, so you're not going to get stopped by chump blockers. And you're giving yourself haste, so if you, again, get the combo out, you're not worrying about having to go till next turn to actually attack. So it's a pretty potent deck. If we scroll down, we can see where there's some opportunity for variance. You can do a couple copies of Commune with Spirits to help you dig if you end up getting the creatures but not the right stuff or the right enchantments form. Showdown of the Scalds just helps you keep hitting gas and building out your board. Touch of the Spirit Realm is a way to interact and stop your opponent from doing something, or flicker your thing if you need to protect it from removal. Machiko's Reign of Truth is kind of a nice to have, not a must have. And then I actually like the decks that play two copies of Hallowed Haunting. We interrupted this recording for a quick Jax. Any comments, Jax? Do you like this deck? No. Okay, he doesn't like it either. Good to know. There's that quick Jax attack for you. What was I talking about? Hallowed Haunting. I like the decks that play a couple copies of this over the ones that don't. I think it's just a good include that gives you a nicer top end or flexibility if you lose your combo pieces. And then the last thing is, this deck is expensive to make because it requires a lot of rare lands, especially with it being 3 colors. But that's kind of it. Who cares about sideboard, right? We're all playing best of one because it's quick. The quickest way to go about it. All right, next deck, Mono White Aggro. This is the one I probably see the most people complaining about because they just don't like it. And I think that has largely to do with the flexibility that Elite Spellbinder brings to every game. And by flexibility, I mean their ability to answer whatever solution you may have to their problem. But any mono-colored aggro deck is doing the thing. They're trying to curve out early, play stuff that can add to their board or help it go wider, and then benefit them, like Intrepid Adversary. Super important card in this deck because you go wide. Then if you play this thing into the mid or late game, your board is massive and you can't be stopped. Jax is now officially in kitty mode, just racing around, so you're going to hear a bell jingling. We'll enjoy that. But yeah, you're just creating a lot of tokens. You're making your opponent's interaction more difficult to cast. And hopefully by the time they get to it, it's too late. That's why Thalia is here to help us prevent our opponent from playing non-creature spells. And then Elite Spellbinder it's just so much value. Turn 3, you know everything in your opponent's hand, and you make the one card they probably need to stop you more expensive, and then they probably just don't get to it in time. That's kind of the goal. Rydane, God of the Worthy, and the legendary artifact that you can turn into on their flip side, both super good in the current meta. I mean, generally, I think aggro is harder to pilot. I think this is the easiest aggro deck we've had in a while to pilot. It's kind of easy mode aggro. If I do say so myself, I can see why people are frustrated by it because it's like there's just very little counterplay. You just have to hope they don't stop you from wiping their board. And if you don't wipe their board, you're going to lose. But it's a quick way to climb the ladder, and that's why it's the second most popular deck. Now we move on to Jeskai Control. And this is, I mean, it really is dependent on Goldspan Dragon. Like, this is 95% of the time the reason you win the game. Lear's here just to help you be able to keep casting stuff. In the early game, you're just trying to interact with your opponent. If they're on the aggro game plan, you're exiling their stuff. Or if they're trying to build up a board, you just bounce the creature that's enchanted with 100 things, because then, well, they lose all the enchantments and now they got to replay the creature. So this has good answers to other things that are strong in the meta currently. Expressive Iteration, just good card advantage. But the way we finally get in for damage and actually win the game is Goldspan Dragon. We don't really have any other ways to get in for damage except for, I guess you might play 1 or 2 copies of Hall of Storm Giants. But I mean, I attack with that thing like once every 10 games. Really, the game plan is Goldspan Dragon because this card's just stupid strong and obnoxious in every deck that plays it. Lear's obviously not going to win you the game. She's just there to make your opponent rage quit as soon as you can replay everything in your graveyard. that stop them from doing everything they're trying to do. I don't think it's as popular because it relies on you having that right removal at the right time, or else you just get ran over. And it's control, so it's just a bit slower than the first two decks we just saw, but all in all, Jeskai Control, very strong deck. And then moving on to the fourth deck, which I'm actually going to skip over, Boros Aggro. It's extremely similar to Mono White Aggro, with like the only difference being some rabbit batteries, and you play the same saga we just saw in the Rune deck because you don't want to run out of cards. Izzet Dragons, very similar to Jeskai Control. They just don't play the white, and they just lean more into the red removal. Play a Jin Gataxias if you want. The next one that I think is truly unique and different is Orzhov Control, not the one that relies on Luminarch Aspirant and life gain and mono white stuff with black removal. Orzhov Control here, this one is focused on using early removal to deal with aggro threats and then using your Planeswalkers as your value engines. Everyone's favorite card, Meathook Massacre. You got to play at least a couple copies of this. This is what just ruins everyone's day. You got that, you got Wedding Announcement to make all your tokens obnoxious and tough to deal with, and at the end of the day, you just outvalue your opponents by being able to chump block, get cards back, or 2-for-1 them, essentially 2-for-1 them, and then you just make a lot of tokens, you make those tokens tough to deal with, and walk over your opponent, doing white-black things. This deck's also probably the easiest to build from a wildcard standpoint because it uses cards from various sets, so if you're like me and you just play a little bit of every set on Arena, you probably have a collection that's easier to copy and paste this one into your collection. And I think if you're trying to get better at playing Control, Orzhov Control is actually a pretty nice deck to try that out with, because of you having to balance, when do I play my Planeswalkers, when do I add to my board, when do I impact my opponent's board and what they're doing, and it's definitely not a solitaire game plan. So that's kind of the gist. If you want the easiest one, the one that everyone's playing and is kind of solitaire maximized, Naya Enchantments, that's your go-to. You want the quickest way to just try and climb Mono White Aggro. If you want to go more control-y but be able to get bailed out by bad plays or not having as much interaction, Jeskai Control and Goldspan Dragon get you there. And then Orzhov Control, I think, is the most fun of these four, but the least consistent and able to answer what the meta's doing. And now I'll switch to my deck that I'm actually using to climb, because for once in my life, Mono Red Aggro is like not a top tier or common choice. And Mono Red Aggro is the deck I have been building. Let's change the camera. But this is the one I've been climbing with, only because it's quick and it can interact with what the other decks are doing. Sometimes it's not, but again, it's monocolor aggro, and it was the cheapest to build from a wildcard standpoint. You play early drops. Kumano's a great turn 1 play. Anything else is a fine turn 1 play. The ideal start, though, is something turn 1, you play Patchwork Automaton turn 2, and then turn 3, you're just playing all the other artifacts. Come turn 4, you can play Twin Shot Sniper or channel it to kill something, play a couple other artifacts, keep attacking, or Thundering Raiju is just a problem card to deal with. This card just closes out games. That's why it's awesome. And yeah, we play 22 lands, a couple of these Sokensen, Crucible of Defiance, because sometimes getting those 1/1s and then you equip in, and yeah, like I really actually enjoy the reconfigure piece. The reconfigure piece is a nice way to get around complete board wipes. If you know your opponent's planning to remove your stuff next turn or Meathook Massacre, you can equip this to another creature so then it sticks around to get in for those final points of damage you may need in the last turn. Also, Kumano faces Kakazan. When it comes in as the 2/2, it now exiles everything that you hit, which your opponent sometimes forgets about. So those little 1/1s that they think they can give the creature -1/-1 with, or create treasures with, nope, exiled. Sorry about it. I like this deck because it's the cheapest to build. There's like 4 rares here, and then however many Sokensens you want to put in, that's all the rares. Everything else, commons, uncommons. To help me climb almost a gold. Been playing for like a day with it because I haven't played much Constructed at all. I'll put the MTG Goldfish link in the description as well if you just want to grab the deck list. Really appreciate y'all watching. Thank you to Card Kingdom for sponsoring the channel. Thank you to my patrons for always being awesome. I'll see you in the comments. Let me know what decks you're playing, or if there's edits to these decks that you would suggest. Love to hear. Or if you got a spicy brew that you're climbing with, share that in the comments. But I'll see you there. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one, my friends. Take it easy. Peace.